All right, so right. So this video is really for, I guess, it's for beginners. It's going to be for people who are interested in getting into art, who aren't quite sure whether art is for them or not for them. It's for amateurs who are picking up a pencil, trying to draw, not having really any direction, and people who are just kind of in that starting stage of things and struggling. So before I do that, I think I want to talk about, just what is art in the first place. And this is a thing where I think kind of, it's like there's been a lot of debate that rages over this. People will make all kinds of postmodern artwork. They'll throw it in a museum. Doesn't really necessarily make any sense. You might go into one of these museums and see this modern art, or you might see it on the street, government-funded projects. You look at the thing, and it doesn't do anything for you. And you might feel like sometimes you go to one of these museums and you're like the only one who doesn't understand this art. And I just want to tell you, right off the bat, like, you're not alone. I go into these postmodern art museums and I don't understand what the hell's going on either. It's, you have this artwork that is very banal and doesn't do anything for you. So I think the problem is that we haven't had, or I'd say like for some time now, the definition of art, or things that are art or aren't art, have kind of been lost or maybe destroyed over time. And by that, I mean that you'll have a lot of people who go and say, oh, anything is art, everything is art. And it's not a very good way to go about doing stuff. I mean, it's like, let's apply it to medicine, for instance, right? Like if we want to think of art as being a serious matter, look, if these people are selling these art pieces for hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, then it's a serious matter. So if we look at something like, medicine. So medicine, healthcare, very, very serious matter. And can you imagine what would happen if everyone started saying, oh, well, like, everything is medicine, everything is healthcare? Well, lives are on the line in this case, right? And if everyone says, well, hey, look, instead of everyone can say I'm an artist. Well, what if everyone says, well, I'm an eye doctor? Think how many blind people we're going to have going around. We have things called malpractice, where if someone is completely incompetent and not, producing medicine and saying that they are producing medicine, we lock these people up. We don't let them practice medicine. So in the case of art, I feel like, the standards have been dropping and dropping and dropping, and the definitions of what art is and isn't has, again, been kind of blown away in the mist of time. And so this is why I think it's really important to explain just what art is and what art isn't. And I'll make it really, really simple for you. So for me, art, here, I'll give you an example. We take 3 mouth sounds and I just throw these at you in random order because it's art. And you don't know what to make of it, because to me, like, that's not art. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't have anything. On the other hand, if we apply a rhythmic structure to it, those 3 sounds become. So the rhythmic structure makes that make sense. It makes it give you something. It the groove that I had in my head when I was doing that beatboxing gets conveyed over. So my definition of art is the articulation of media, of various things. They could be mouth sounds. It could be when you're cooking food. You don't just randomly throw ingredients into the pot. There's some skill involved. There's a thought about a taste, a texture that you're trying to convey. In the case of, what I did with the beatboxing, there's a rhythm and there's a jive so that you're trying to convey. In movies, we have stories and we have all these thoughts and ideas, things that we are trying to convey. Basically, they're things that we generally feel on a subjective level or may experience on an objective level, but they're generally all in the head. They're all in the head. And so they need to be, problem is we're not telepaths. And so these things need to be given some sort of solid form. Art is the articulation. It's the way of taking what's in our heads, that's trapped in the meat prisons of our minds, and turning it into a solid form, articulating it into a solid form, which we, this is why when we say we express ourselves, right? We articulate our thoughts as words, and then it can be transferred to other people. It can be shared with other people. It can be judged and possibly acted upon. So art is very much a communication skill, and it's got to be able to, like, look, fine. If people want to say that anything is art and everything is art, then it would be easy to say that some things, look, that there's like good food, like everything can be food, right? Sure, you can take anything and you can just shove it in your mouth and try and chew it and swallow it, all right? But you still can differentiate between good food and bad food. You can differentiate between what's going to give you a stomach ache and what's going to feel pretty good and make you take a massive dump later on. This is the thing, is that it's important that you understand what art is, and you have to be able to select and choose what you think is good and what's not good. This is like having a sense of taste, right? When it comes down to eating, you got to have a sense of taste and to know, what things taste good, what things are good to eat, what things are good to take in and consume, and what things are not. You have to be able to judge and critique. And I think the whole movement of trying to break down this judgment and critique, especially the self-judgment and self-critique, is just a way for snake oil salesmen to weasel their way in and get paid hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I think that art is also one of these things that is, because it's very, very good for the propagation of ideas, it's very powerful, because good art moves people. It can encourage them to do things. It can incite them. It can inspire people. It moves art. Good art, I think, advances and moves society. It has the capability. It has an incredible power. And so this is, I think, why the left has this huge incentive to break down and destroy art, to make it seem like everything's art and really everything's bad. When they would say everything's special, no one is, right? When everyone is special, no one is. So, just keep this in mind, that if you're going to get into art, your main purpose is or one of the look, you're wielding this powerful tool. And this is what this tool does. This tool can take your thoughts and ideas and emotions, and it can allow you to share them, and you may possibly use it to convince other people. Who knows what you do? But I mean, like, it's this really god-awful, powerful, awesome force that you can use. And boy, oh boy, do I ever hope it's in the right hands, because, there's a lot of propaganda out there which uses art, and it's not in the right hands. And I can say that a lot of the problems in the Western world are the result of just the abuse of art. And I feel that a lot of people, I think, I go a lot, sometimes I go to various art communities and I hang around and I see, people drawing and I think we could use a leg up. I think we got to get our act together. So enough about the purpose of art, and to talk about how do you actually get good at, well, I mean, I do want to talk a bit about, how to, I just want to kind of, like, I mean, I said a lot of these things and I still want to kind of back them up, because I know that a lot of people say, well, what is art and what isn't art, right? Some people say photography is not art, and, digital artwork is not art. And like, it's a pretty rich topic, right? So, I mean, you look at something like, photography, right? Perfect example. Someone will say photography is not art, and just taking a picture and throwing it up on on Tumblr is not necessarily going to make art. Like taking a picture of some escalators and saying look, that's art. Well, okay. So I said that art has to convey an idea or a feeling or something like that, right? So when I look at, sometimes there's like this really, really beautiful environmental nature photography, right? And they're like, oh, you just, went and shot a picture. And I'm like, well, no, hang on a second. Somebody had to know that that's a really, really nice spot. And there's a certain time of the day to shoot that. That's when it really, really looks at its best. And you're going to have to bring out various, your camera, your tripod, your lenses, your whole lighting setup or whatever. And you're going to have to find that right time. And the thing is that you might have seen that before, and damn it, I got to share this with people. So there's all this setup to be able to to capture and present that to someone. So to me, that is part of that articulation. That this is why I think that photography can be an art form. This is why I think it's an excellent art form, because it comes down to one of the main things about art when you're creating art is it requires a certain degree of selection, right? Somebody has to consciously say, hey man, that's something that needs to be shared. And it's like, and the thing is that whatever it makes me feel, right, I share it with you, you feel the same thing. So then we look at things like computer generated artwork and fractal artwork, and people are like, oh, that's not art either. Computer beep boop made the art. And so I would say to that, well, I mean, someone still has to write the mathematical algorithms to make that work. And sometimes like I've done this kind of thing, and sometimes when I'm making the algorithm, I'm like, oh, it's like the pattern didn't quite turn this way. It didn't make the pattern swirl a certain way. I need to adjust the mathematical equation, make it turn the other way. And you're constantly tuning and tuning and tuning until it looks just right. And meanwhile, you're waiting for your computation times, and it takes a while, right? So I mean, like, again, I can think of that as an art form as well, because someone has to sit down and really, really figure that kind of stuff out. And then, whether or not, if it's digital or traditional, whether you hand draw it or if you do it on a tablet, people are like, oh, they're not artists because no one can play a guitar, right? Like there's these people who are purists. Okay, so there's certain people who are purists who believe that everything must be drawn with like stick and charcoal on a canvas, and like everything has to be real, must be done in hard mode, and that's what what Puritanism or being a purist is about. And in the end, no one cares. No one cares how much blood and sweat and tears you put into a work. No one cares that you split open a walrus and a baby fetus walrus and sacrifice it to Satan, and then use this blood to paint a canvas. And like, no one cares about that stuff. No one cares how the art is made. All they care about is how the art makes them feel. They care about the thing that was in the head, that was put together and then sent over and presented to other people. That's what they care about. And so if you're going to make art, with the thought in mind that, oh man, if people just see how hard I've like sweated over this piece of work, you can't make them care about that. You just can't. Now, it does require, oftentimes, you will require some degree of skill. Like if it's poorly drawn, like I said, I like to use cooking as an example for this, because oftentimes when you're dealing with cooking, it's very easy to screw something up. And if you cook it well, it will taste good. And it's like if you cook it poorly, you might give someone a disease. Like, the thing is that when you're using your skills, I think ideally people will not notice your skills. If I cook something really, really well, people will not know the technique. They won't be looking at the technique that I've used to cook. They'll be too concentrated on just, I need to get this stuff in my face as fast as I can because it tastes so good and delicious, and it makes, that's what good cooking does, right? Good cooking, people will not care how long that thing had to sit in the oven and slow cook, all right? What they will care about is how good that damn thing tastes and how quickly do you need to stuff it in their face. And the same thing could be said for the art, right? So don't go into art with the intention of, I don't know, being a rock star and having everyone like look at you and saying, oh, look how good I am at being an artist and that sort of thing. So, these are things not to, get into art for. On the other hand, I mean, there are some things to get into art for, like, hey, I'd just like to draw really cute girls, right? Like, really hot chicks and with big tits and that kind of thing. Like, look, that's fine. Okay, that's a very pure reason to get into drawing. Was one of my reasons for getting into drawing. That's the thing, is that if you care more about depicting the subject matter, that's all fine and good. And if you want to draw those things as, and if you want to draw these kinds of things, I hope that you do polish your skills up and really, really get good at it. And the thing is that you don't want to show people just how skilled you are. You want to show people, like, you have to achieve enough technical skill to become what I call effortless. All right. So if I do, I don't know. Here. So when I talk about a degree of effortlessness, right? This means that you make it look easy. It means you can take something that's really, really difficult and you can just make it happen really fast and easy. And that means that when you get very, very technically, when you become very technically skilled and you're able to do it without, without it looking hard, then people will not be focusing on how tough, how much of a tough time you had with drawing. And another thing about artwork is that, like I said, you're trying to convey a feeling. So if you are struggling with a technical skill, well, the way the mind works is that there are the things that we're naturally good at, like walking, talking, and breathing, chewing gum, these kinds of things that we're able to do very rapidly and effortlessly. We don't think about these things. These things are all, loaded in they're deep rooted in our subconscious, and we just do them automatically. And so in the end, whenever you're, like walking, you can just think about the destination. You just walk there and you get there. In the case of drawing, the destination for drawing is the feels that you're trying to convey, all the concept, the idea, and the feeling that you're trying to convey. It's like if you are really, really bad at cooking and you're just trying not to burn the damn thing, right? Like, you're not going to be thinking about the taste and the textures and all the other stuff that you want to convey. You become less of an artist and more of a technician because you're fighting with the technical side of things. If you don't have your skills really, really up there. All right. So I mean, stuff like, if I can draw like a really, really rapid landscape because I can deal with this whole drawing in perspective and being able to just quickly squiggle lines which actually appear to go into and out of space. And I have, I've got various methods for drawing vegetation, which are really, really fast, right? Like these kinds of things, right? I can focus entirely on the perspective and the composition. And I can concentrate on the feels. And this is the really important thing, is that, remember, the whole purpose of art is to take those feels and articulate them into a form. So the thing is that you have to be free of all the baggage. You have to be free of the baggage of technical incompetence. And so there are, 4 levels of technical competence. There's unconsciously incompetent. I call this level -1. Okay, unconsciously incompetent means that you're not good at it and you don't even know it. In fact, you might even think you're good at it. This is a thing we call the Dunning-Kruger effect. So the Dunning-Kruger effect is the tendency for unskilled individuals to think that they're actually better at a thing than they actually are. So, you might think you're good at drawing because you've been drawing for a long time, but, sorry, you just don't have the fundamentals and you suck. This is a minus on you. So that's why I call it like level -1. Level 0 is when you are what I would call consciously incompetent. So it means that you're not good at it. You suck, fine, you can't do it, but you know that you're not good at it. And you might even know what you have to do to become good at it. You know the difference between competent and incompetent. You know what the competent person does, and you know what you're not doing, and you're just not there yet. You just haven't, you still have to work at it. So a lot of people, have to, they're actually behind the starting line. They just have to get to that starting line where they become consciously incompetent. Then there is conscious competence. So this is where, on the conscious mind, there's the subconscious mind. The conscious mind is only able to do one thing. Really, you can only give it one job. And if you try and give it 2 jobs, it's not going to get done very well. So consciously competent means that if you if you're thinking about it, you can do it. If I tell people, it's like a lot of people say, oh, I can't draw straight lines. And I'm like, okay, fine. Can you just draw 2 points, right? Can you connect those dots? Hey, look, you made a straight line. Can you draw using your arm? And the thing is, I give people these exercises and they can become consciously competent, right? Where they can draw straight lines if they think about it. Now, the problem is, if you're consciously competent, you can't be an artist, right? You're going to be a technician. You're going to be thinking about the technique all the time. You're not going to be thinking about the feels that you're trying to articulate. So the thing is that in exercise, a lot of times I give people drawing exercises to help them get to that level 1, where they are consciously competent, where if they think about it, they can do it. Okay, so I give people those exercises. But you have to work at it and work at it until you're like, you're working on all the problems. You're like, oh, my grip is wrong, or I'm not using my shoulder to draw, or I'm not, there's all these things. This is where you're just focusing on the technique. And then you have to keep doing those exercises. And not just those, like doing these exercises as is. You may actually wind up having to compound exercises, making them more complex by turning. So in this case, I've turned it in perspective, and now I'm doing this exercise, but it's in perspective now, right? It's like I can show them, here, take a spiral, right, and draw something like this. Now, can you do this in perspective? Right. This is this kind of ratcheting up. You stack another weight on, and you compound the exercise. You make it more difficult. And the reason we do this, stuff like this, is like when you realize that, hey, I'm getting too good at this exercise, I need to make it harder, then I need to stack on another level of difficulty. Right? These are things that I recommend that people do so that they can move the exercise, move the ability from being consciously competent to the final level, level 2. So basically, the final level is unconscious competence. This means that you can do it without really thinking about it. So when you are unconsciously competent, well then, not only, like, if you don't have to think about it and you can just do it, it means it allows you to stack on other things. It means now you can move your focus to things that you're, at level 0, where you're consciously incompetent. You can focus on improving those other skills. And there is really a finite number of these skills to deal with. Because a lot of these skills, you encounter them over and over and over and over again. There's a finite number of these essential skills. And if you're very, very diligent in your exercises and you focus on Pokemon capturing them all, and then also really, really working on them and improving them and training those skills up, and then training them so that you can use them in conjunction, so that you can work the whole thing up and down, left and right, and then in combinations and all that stuff, to the point where you don't even have to think about it. Well, finally, you'll have the skills to become an artist. You won't be an artist just yet, because I tell you is that after years of working at this stuff and getting to that level where I'm unconsciously competent, it's only now am I really starting to think about, well, what do I want to draw? Why am I drawing? Why did I get into drawing in the first place? Oh yeah, I want to draw tits. So this is the grand conundrum, right? Is that you're going to have to put off your desires for a little while. You're going to have to put off drawing the things that you love drawing while you improve your skills, while you bring your skills up to the level where you can, just be free to just let go. And it's not really letting go. It just means that your subconscious is now handling it. It means that your conscious mind can let go of it. You can let go of it at the conscious level to let your subconscious handle it for you. So yeah, I mean that's kind of like, that's to me, that is like a good chunk of the path of getting to that stage where you can be an artist. So what else is there? Right. I mean, the whole thing about drawing, what makes drawing good, what makes it bad. I mean, there's part of it where it's the manual dexterity stuff, getting the lines to go where you want them to go. Then there is a creation of a 3-dimensional optical illusion on flat paper, which is what I've been doing all this time, right? So the idea is that if you've ever seen those 3D plastic printing pens, they're these pens that are like hot glue guns, and you load them up with plastic. They are battery powered. They have a heating element, and what they do is that as you draw with them, they extrude plastic, hot liquid plastic, and it cools when it hits the air. and it forms like a solid rod of plastic, and you can just move the pen very, very slowly, and you can be drawing out like solid wires of plastic. That's what it does. It extrudes these little plastic wires, and you can create these, you know, three-dimensional forms in space. Well, this is essentially the same thing, right? What I'm doing is I define a three-dimensional space. Like, let's say I have a platform, and then I can start, you know, extruding the plastic out, and then, you know, moving along that platform, and I can go up. And this is what the drawing is. The drawing is a three-dimensional optical illusion, and I'm just extruding the plastic out, and I can maybe move it. You know, I can make cylinders and an axis. I can rotate. I can spin it off, rotate, go back into the distance. Right? That's all it is. It's drawing is like extruding plastic with your pen, and then being able to visualize it and create this optical illusion. So when I look at the paper, it doesn't look like it's flat. It looks like I can kind of see into the page, and I'm drawing into the page, and I'm drawing up, and I'm drawing within these three cardinal axes. So if you've ever seen, you know, like the isometric three-dimensional axes in a 3D drawing program, it's the same thing, right? So the idea is that I would draw, you know, on one of these axes, like on the x-axis, or I'll go back on the z-axis, or I'll go up on the y-axis, and I'm just separating between these three axes, and I'm just switching from axis to axis as I move along. Right? This is the technical skill that I use when I'm drawing. It's not mysterious. It's not like it's just poorly documented. People just don't explain this stuff in the art schools. Maybe it's because they don't have a technical mind. But when you use, you know, when you're drawing, you're just using this to extrude. Like, you know, if I draw a human head, I'm just really just extruding this plastic out, making these like little plastic wires. And of course, you don't draw like all the lines, but I mean, I just do this as a way to illustrate to you, you know, to explain, you know, this is the basic that you get into, and then later on you learn to eliminate detail. You learn to just draw the bare minimum, right? But this is, you know, if you want to get to that stage where you're creating something where it looks like, you know, anime and manga, then you need to know all of the stuff that's in between, right? You need to be able to see all those extrusion lines and be able to deal with the whole wireframe, all that wireframe detail, right? But it's just that stuff occurs in your head. It's like when you're dealing with mathematics, right? When they teach you in school, the first thing they do is they teach you to just write out every step of the equation on paper. And as you're solving the thing, you just break the whole thing down, and you just solve one little bit at a time, and you go down, especially when you're dealing with like linear algebra. You just deal with it step by step by step, and you write all of the steps out. So when you're starting out and you're learning to just, you know, practice and you know, you're drawing art, I say draw everything, draw all the lines. So if I were to draw like a plus, like a big three-dimensional, you know, like the medic plus symbol. So I'll just take 5 of these boxes, and I'm going to just draw every single piece of them. This is what I would call, I guess this is very verbose. Right, so this just has everything. Nothing has been left out. There's no minimalism. There's no omission of detail. And of course, it's not the most attractive thing. It's not what I would call an artistic style. It's not aesthetically pleasing. But, you know, it works. It works. It serves its purpose. Then what happens is you eventually get to the stage, you know, you have to work at stuff like this, and you have to draw like rotations of these things at different angles. And then your end goal, or your main objective, is to get to this stage where you can draw only what you need to draw. You can draw like a bare minimum of detail. It still conveys to people what, you know, that this thing is kind of this little crossing. I'm just drawing the vertexes now, right? But normally, but now I don't have to, right? Because the thing is that your mind fills in the gaps, and it makes it happen. So this is what happens when you're drawing anime and manga, and you're doing cartooning and this kind of thing, is that you don't draw all the little wireframe details. You don't draw everything. you only draw, you're doing what I call is you're just doing a hidden line rendering. You're just drawing the overlapping objects and the overlapping shapes. And there's lots and lots of skills and techniques to be learned. All of these are just ways to make the shading, like everyone's always like wondering, how do I handle shading? How do I make shading look good and all that? They don't understand. If you understand it in the context of making an optical illusion, then it becomes easier. So, man, this thing, I know it's like I'm going all over the place because it's because the whole thing about learning about drawing is it's not like this thing where you just stack up a bunch of bricks. Okay, like I wish art could just be this thing where you just keep stacking a bunch of little blocks. If you're trying to get to a goal, right? It's like everyone just wants art. The whole thing about learning this skill to be about stacking a bunch of blocks like that and getting up to there, to the top, right? Everyone just wants to get here and just stack up a bunch of blocks. If only art was like that. Art is more like this. It means that you need a bunch of basics. You need to lay down like a foundation, and then you have other things which can go like this, right? You can't just go in a linear fashion. You may wind up having to do like several, you may need multiple things to support the next layer of stuff that you're going to put on, right? Before you can put on this brick, right? You need this skill and this skill as well. All right, and then sometimes when you try to do something too fast, you're missing a skill, and then what happens is this happens. All right. So that's the thing, is that you have to always be looking for what is the fundamental skill that I'm missing. And then, yeah, I mean, some skills do wind up being kind of more like this, right? Some skills will probably stack up like that. But the thing is that a lot of people don't pursue the foundation because the only thing they ever see is that thing at the top. They see that as the goal. And then what they do is they try to draw cartoony, manga, chibi stuff, whatever, and they don't have any of that foundational stuff, and it just falls apart, and they don't have the structure. They can't make a good three-dimensional optical illusion, and they draw a lot of this artwork, which is just honestly very, very cringeworthy. So anyway, I don't know. I hope that helps give people some direction. And yeah, I don't know. Just check out my channel. I might have some stuff that might be of use to you. All right, so I'm looking forward to your comments. I'll talk to you later.